another creepy story for you. If you're somebody that has night terrors, this is one to scroll on. Don't watch this alone and don't watch it in the dark. This one comes from a lady called Alison, whose mum and dad used to own a construction company, and Alison grew up in a church. Her mum and dad were very religious. They used to go to church every Sunday, and so occasionally through their connection to the church, sometimes her dad would take on workers who were recovering from certain addictions. A lot of these men were only like in their early 20s, they'd had a rough start in life, and unfortunately a lot of them had become homeless. So when her mum and dad realised that a lot of these men were homeless and that after their shift with the dad they would just go and stay at like a shelter or sleep rough, they eventually decided to build something in their garden, like on their property, so that the men could stay there, and this was in an unofficial capacity. They just did this out of the goodness of their heart so that these men had a place to stay. She says these rooms were not plush, they were not somewhere that you would want to stay for like an extended period of time, they were not somewhere that you would want to call home, they weren't super comfortable, but they were better than sleeping on the street. At some point they take on a guy called Paul, and Paul is also in recovery. He's a very hard worker and he ends up being one of her dad's best workers, and Paul at the time was not that much older than Alison and Alison's older brother. Her mum and dad would buy Paul Christmas presents and birthday presents, and he would come and spend Christmas, New Year's, all of the holidays at their house with their family. But Paul did have his own family. His biological family lived quite close by, and sometimes her family would see his family in the supermarket and things like that, and they would say hello to each other. Things were cordial, but they didn't know each other other than to say hello. Paul ends up doing really well for himself. He gets himself a flat, he has a girlfriend, and things look to be on the up. But one day he turns back up at their family home and he asks if somebody can stay at their house just for a short period of time till they sort themselves out because they have nowhere else to go. Her mum and dad say yes because they would never see somebody out on the street, but they are very surprised when an old woman turns up at the door. Not a young man, doesn't seem to be a recovering addict, but an old woman. Over the next few weeks, Paul pops down pretty much every day to check on this lady, and eventually her mum gets curious and she asks, who is that lady? And he kind of stutters and he says, that's my nan. And she just kind of assumes that his stuttering is just because he's a proud man and he feels kind of ashamed that his nan has fallen on tough times, and so she leaves it at that. The family just settle into the fact that they have this random older lady living at the bottom of their garden, but they rarely see her. She's not a problem, she isn't a burden, and every now and then the family would take like fresh towels and things like that down to her just to make sure that she was comfortable, and they would leave them outside the door because she would never answer the door. No one ever saw this woman leave her room. This is weird because the accommodation that they had, it was just a room. There was no shower, there was no toilet, there was literally nothing but a sink in the corner of the room. It was a shared, what you could call a kitchen, but it was very basic, and none of the other men that lived there ever saw this woman use the kitchen. They never saw any of her food in the fridge, nothing. The only reason that they knew that that woman was in there was because every night they would hear the same kind of crying, and it almost sounded like a newborn cry, and eventually the men complained so much, her dad has to just ask Paul, like, what's up with your nan? Like, what is the crying? Paul looks petrified at this, and he just says, yeah, I'm sorry, she has a cat. I know you're not supposed to have pets in there, but she has brought her cat with her, and her dad doesn't know what to say, so he just allows it because she's old. A month into the lady staying at the accommodation, they have their first OD in the entire time that the shelter has been open. She actually said that this broke her dad's heart. He never saw it coming. He was completely blindsided by it. He thought this guy was doing really, really well, and he held himself responsible. During this time, the family all start to have night terrors, and the night terrors all centre around the old lady. The entire family would have dreams of the old woman coming into their house, crawling up the walls and staring at them from the ceiling like a spider. That sometimes it was so real that even her dad would cry and beg his wife to look at the ceiling to make sure she wasn't there so that he could open his eyes. In other dreams, they would go into room 4, which was her room in the shelter, and they would open the door and they would find like certain rituals happening in there and bodily fluids spilt. They would dream of this woman dancing around flames, and they would see certain symbols in their dreams. Eventually 6 months had passed and they didn't know what to do about this old woman because they couldn't get her out. And remember, they have no actual reason to evict her, but no one had ever wanted to stay there for that long. Eventually, after another one of the residents' ODs, her dad and her mum just decided they're going to shut it. She said when her dad had to go and tell Paul that his nan will have to find somewhere else to live, Paul wasn't happy at all. He was like, what the hell am I going to do with her? Which none of them could understand, because at this point, Paul had a good job, he had a nice place to live. There was no reason that his nan couldn't go and live in a spare bedroom. Everyone else is really understanding, and the church in fact helps some of the guys find other places to live. And on the last day, the family invites all of the tenants in so that they can have a home-cooked meal and say proper goodbyes. All of the tenants turn up to the last dinner, apart from Paul's nan. And at this point, the entire family are feeling really uncomfortable about the fact that they haven't seen his nan leave, and so they're thinking she's still in there. Like, is she going to be decent? Are we going to see something we don't want to see? And they're scared of her because they've had really awful dreams. The entire family go down. They open the door, and what they see can only be described as something out of your worst nightmares. She said that the smell was absolutely horrendous. There was cat feces everywhere. There were stains all over the bed, dark brown stains, which They don't know what they were. Walls were completely scratched in places, and at first they looked like cat scratches, but when you looked closer, the claws were way too big to be cat scratches. Some of them even looked like some of the symbols that they saw in their dreams. Nightmares. Family go from feeling bad about Paul's nan to just feeling really angry that somebody could treat their property this way. Seems like Paul was also angry at the family because after that he never speaks to them again, but they do hear word on the curb from around the town that he is not doing well at all. In fact, he loses his nice house, he loses practically everything, his girlfriend leaves him. Eventually her dad hears that he is struggling with addiction again, and eventually the family get the sad news that he has also passed away. Even though the family were no longer close to Paul and they didn't speak, they decided that they should all go to the funeral and they should all pay their respects. One thing that they were really worried about is the fact that they were going to have to face his nan again and basically see the person that they chucked out, but also the person that destroyed their property. When they arrive at the church, his entire family is sitting at the front, everyone bar his nan. So they just kind of assume that maybe she's passed away too. In the day, the family get the shock of their lives when the nan does walk in, and they can tell by her body language that she doesn't know this family. You can tell she is a stranger to them. So her dad just takes it upon himself to go over and ask Paul's mum, do you know that woman over there? She seemed to be very close to Paul. I'm just wondering who she is to your family. And the mum says, I've never seen her before in my life. Goes on to tell Paul's mum about how he had lied about this woman being his nan, and she just says, yeah, he told a lot of lies. I don't know why he would have done that. So after a while of watching this old lady, they realise that the men around her just keep bringing her food and drink, and it's almost like they're treating her like a queen. For a while, her mum starts to get annoyed at the treatment that this woman is receiving after what she's done to their house. She's annoyed about the fact that this woman hasn't even said hello, she's not said thank you, she's not said sorry, nothing. She's just completely ignored them as though they didn't let her stay with them for like months on end. So she decides she's going to confront her. She's going to go over there and she's going to ask her why she trashed their house. As she gets closer, she is stopped dead in her tracks by one of the men. He steps in front of her to block her view of the woman and he says, hi. And the voice that speaks is a voice that the mum knows really well. It's the voice of one of the men that OD'd. It's not his body, it is not his face. She recognises him from his eyes and from his voice. She is taken aback and she says, do we know each other? And he says, no, I don't think we've met before. In that moment, she knew that whatever was going on with those boys and that old woman was not good, and she didn't want any part of it. And she turns around and she heads back to her family. And the creepiest part is that old woman, who was in her 80s back then, outlived both of her own parents. She is possibly even alive today. Somebody tell me what she was doing in that room. In fact, don't tell me.
Hello and welcome back to a series of spooky stories, The Haunted Tea Spill. This series is brought to you by all things spooky and ungodly amounts of paranormal activity. I call this one the Smoke Demon. I assume that it's yours unless someone else had this terrible experience. So this happened back in late 2015, early 2016. At the time, it was just myself, husband, and daughter, who at the time was 8 months, almost a year. We had just moved into this brand new townhome. It was a cute little 2-bedroom, fully furnished, $900 a month. I mean, who wouldn't take it? $900 a month for a 2-bedroom. For some context, my bedroom is where this took place. My window faced the east side of the room, my bed to the north side facing the closet on the south end of the room, and my door to the west side of the room, and above us, the ceiling fan. I promise it's relevant to get the layout. I hope so. Also to note, my daughter at the time was co-sleeping with us. One night, we went to bed and woke up at 3:33 a.m. Nothing was different. The closet light was still on, bedroom door slightly ajar, but I couldn't move. After scanning the room, I looked at the ceiling fan. I hadn't noticed the black, smoky mist above me when I first opened my eyes. Ew. I stared at it like, what the fuck is that? And then it opened its eyes. Dark, blood red, and malevolent. I could feel the hatred that came from its eyes, and then it moved. Slowly to my right, down to the window, to the floor. I don't like that I'm able to picture it. It's freaking me out. And then it reached up. Tall, lengthy fingers, one by one, gripping the edge of my bed. My heart was racing and I could feel the sweat dripping down my face. Then, it pulled itself up, still smoky, until it opened its mouth. Rows and rows of sharp, yellowish brown and black teeth, slimy drool as it opened its mouth. The smell of rotten meat filled my nose. I still couldn't move. I look over and my husband and daughter are still sleeping next to me. As I write this, I have goosebumps and I'm replaying it. He grabbed my face, came in close and said, I found you. I screamed in my mind and he laughed this horrible, monstrous laugh. I will eat your flesh, tear out your organs as you watch and do the same to your child and husband. What the fuck? There's nothing that you can do. I'm coming and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Hell no. I closed my eyes and began to pray in my mind as tears rolled down my face. He laughed again and said, your God is not here. He cannot save you. I opened my eyes and it was morning. I was dripping sweat and my bed was soaked. the smell of the creature lingering in my nose. To this day, I swear I catch glimpses of him when I wake at night. I haven't seen anything like it since, but what do you think? Sleep paralysis, which I have no history of and I've never experienced and haven't experienced since, or a demon giving me a warning? I have experienced supernatural things from time to time growing up, but what do you think? I think that you should go bathe in holy water and see a priest, maybe. Call ghost hunters or Zach Baggins, Scooby-Doo, Sam and Dean. I don't know, that shit is scary as fuck. I mean, that doesn't sound like my sleep paralysis demon. Thank God. That's fucking scary as shit. Someone in the comments can give you some advice or give you some thought on what it could be. It's scary. That's all I can tell you. Rated on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being least scary, creepy, spooky, 10 being the most. 10. Solid 10. If you have a story of your own that you want to submit, you can do so on the link tree in my profile. I will see y'all at the next episode. Stay spooky, friends. Not this spooky. Just a little spooky.
Okay, everybody keeps asking me to give them a warning before I do these spooky videos. This is that warning. Yeah. So, I was still doing home health care because it was flexible. Yeah, I know y'all gonna talk about me. So, my company sent me and a partner to this condo of this 80-year-old woman who had just gotten out of the hospital. She was in there for a month. She was in perfect health until she wasn't one day. So, they sent 2 of us there because they said it was a lot of things that needed to be done around the house. And they wanted to make sure it got done in a timely manner. So, both of us are there. First thing we notice when we walk in is she still has her original drapery. They said that she bought this condo in the 1970s. She still had the 70s drapes, the 70s couches. And when you go to the master bedroom, she still had the drapery that's up top. She still had that. And you could tell she ain't dusted. So we're around there cleaning like crazy. And we decide to sit down, take us a break. So we're sitting in the living room, and we heard a noise. It wasn't distinctive, so we couldn't tell where it was coming from. So we pretty much chalked it up to it could have been one of her 4 cats, because she had 4 cats, and they were all in the basement. They were always fighting. So, yeah. So fast forward to my partner wanted to go on break. She wanted to go on break, so she decided to take a nap on her break. And so while she was taking a nap, I'm still doing notes, but I hear walking. And I heard walking coming from the back from where the rooms are. So, of course, I'm like, she can't walk. So I stand up. I walk back there. But while I'm walking back there, it's like the air is getting thicker. And I feel sick. So I step into the guest room. Now, she's in the guest room because of the hospital bed, and her master bedroom still has the king-size bed in there. So the guest room is where they put her. Now, remember, the hospital beds are kind of high up, and you can see right up under it. While I'm looking around the room, I see a body laying flat up under the bed. Just laying flat with their head, just straight back like this. And so once it realized, and I'm saying it because I still don't know if that was a demon or not till this day. Once it realized that I could see it, it looked over towards me and let out this huge laugh, ran past me. I jumped out the way because I do not want that thing running into me, bumping into me, nothing. Ran past me and ran into the master bedroom. And when I ran in there and looked, it was crawling up under her king bed. What? So after I saw that the thing or it crawled up under her king bed in her master bedroom, I ran out there and I told homegirl, hey, we need to pray around this house. Now, I felt more comfortable telling her certain stuff because she believed. And she wasn't a seer, but she definitely didn't mind praying. Okay, so I went to go get her, and I grabbed my Bible, because remember, I always travel with my Bible, took my Bible out of my bag. We went back there to the master room, and we started praying. And while we're doing that, it kicked its feet out from underneath the bed, kicking it. I guess joking around. I don't know what it was doing. But when it did that, my friend, I said, I'm about to disown you because she walks over there talking about something. I'm about to look under it. No, you're not. You ain't finna look under nothing. Let's go to the living room now until it's time to go. So once me and her go back to the living area, she was like, girl, I just, I'm curious. I just wanted to see for myself. No, you don't. You don't want to see nothing for yourself. So she's like, I'm going to go look. Oh, okay. And you going by yourself. You going by yourself. So she goes in there And I'm guessing that she looked under the bed, raised the bottom up, you know, the drape at the bottom, and raised it up. And I guess they got hold of her hand. She said, ah, like she screamed. I ran back there. She said, something touched my arm. Why would you put your arm? Girl, y'all, she pissed me off. I'm thinking about it now. Anyway, so we go back to the living room. It's 4 a.m. I tell my mama, you know, I call her. Yes, I called my mama at 4 a.m., told her what I saw and what was going on. And so she told me, she said, you know what to do. So started praying around there. I had the water that my mom blessed. Went around there blessing the house. But the thing got so aggravated. And next thing you know, I look up and it's 2 of them. And it got so aggravated that it started knocking stuff over. Now, remember, this is a 70s condo. Okay, this woman has been here for years at this point. Years. It's knocking down all her expensive stuff. This woman is loaded. All right. So it's knocking down, it knocked down this vase that she had. It was other stuff like up on this little shelf. It was knocking over everything. So once the other 2 people that was coming in to relieve us got there, it made it look like we did it. And still to this day, I think that they think we just went around destroying stuff. So we had to come up with a lie to say that the cats did it, that they were around there jumping around, because we just knew that she wasn't going to believe what was going on. Now, my friend that was with me did not see the things knocking it over. I saw the things knocking it over, but she saw them falling by themselves. But I will never forget when I was leaving, me and her decided that we were going to give that assignment to them other 2 girls because they wanted to do night shift. So we decided we were going to go somewhere else. But once we decided that we were no longer going to be coming to that woman's house, we ended up leaving, and we were packing some things up. We saw them things just standing there, and they were outside of the home. So I don't know if they were attached to the inside and the outside, but they were able to leave to be outside of the home. So the noise that we heard, maybe that was them coming in.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely...
I have 2 big ones that have personally happened to me. One of them is super scary. The other one is nice, and I'm going to tell you the nice one first. Okay, so to preface this, spooky things have always happened to my stepmom, and 99% of the unexplainable things that have happened to me have also been in her presence. She's just one of those, like, magnets for this type of thing. So my stepmom's best friend from childhood passed away when they were in their early 20s. Later, my little brother, my stepmom's son, was born on the birthday of this particular friend. And my brother was born with like 4 concurrent congenital heart conditions. So his whole early life, first couple of years of life, he was in and out of the hospital, having heart surgery, cath labs, all that kind of stuff. On Valentine's Day one year, my father got my stepmom just like this crappy stuffed heart from like a gas station. And when you pressed on the heart's hand, it would play this song. And the song was like, do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, if you know it. And they started having this thing happen where pretty much every year on my brother's birthday, also the friend's birthday, or Christmas, or anytime my brother was going to have kind of a big procedure done in the hospital, this heart would go off by itself. And it like didn't need to have batteries. Like just randomly you would hear the do-do-do-do-do when something big was going on, particularly around my brother, birthday twins. So I knew about the heart. I knew that this would happen sometimes. Spooky, but nice, right? Because it's assumed to be the best friend. Who wouldn't love that? That's nice. One day, me and my stepmom are home alone, and we're just sitting downstairs, sort of folding laundry or something, just talking. And she's telling me about this dream she had about her best friend one night. And there were a lot of unanswered questions kind of around this particular friend's death. And, you know, my stepmom was really missing her one night. My father has night terrors, so he'll often kind of like go sleep on the couch if he's having a bad night so he doesn't disturb my stepmom, and he'll always close the bedroom door behind him. In this particular dream, my stepmom dreamt that the door was closed, my father wasn't there, and her friend comes in the door, kind of like gets into bed with her, and they just talk. And she told me that this felt so real that her friend answered all the questions that she had surrounding her death. They got to express how much they missed each other, and it was just really like calming and soothing for her to have that sort of final conversation with her friend. She wakes up the next morning from this dream and the door is open, as if in the dream her friend had opened the door. So she's telling me this really like meaningful dream she had with her friend, and we're both folding laundry, and she pauses in the middle of laundry and she goes, "Wait, hold on." And from upstairs in the nursery where that heart is, as we're talking about this friend, we both hear do 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 do. It sent chills down my spine because we were talking about her. She knew we were talking about her. This thing went off, and it was just a sign of like, I know you're talking about me. I'm here. However, I was 16 and like a scaredy cat, and I was sleeping in the room where the heart was. So I walked in later and I was like, hi. Please don't do anything while I'm here. Thank you. Love you. Bye. Okay, I'm sorry. Work has been crazy. I will tell you guys my scary ghost story now. I tried to record this. It got way too long, so I'm gonna try. Okay, I grew up in Washington. My other set of parents, my father and stepmom, live outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. So I would go stay with them like once or twice a year, let's say. This particular time, they had just moved to a new house, and I was very excited because their last house was a dark place. Scary. I have stories about that house that I will not share here, but let's just say that I was super relieved that they were not there anymore. I was excited. So picture it, summer, 17, I'm going to stay with my other family. I'm like, oh, creepy things won't happen anymore. That's great. Little did I know. Okay, quick layout. Bottom floor, all the living area, set of stairs, very small landing, and all the bedrooms are clustered around this landing. On this particular night, everyone goes to bed before me, let's say at like 10. Parents in one room with my baby brother, my other little brother who's like 12 at the time in the other room, and then the nursery, which is where I'm sleeping. Okay, so it's like midnight, I'm awake, I'm 17, I'm reading a book. I had just gone to the bathroom, so I knew for a fact everyone was upstairs because they all sleep with their doors open. The landing is super small, so I saw all of them a moment ago. They were all fully asleep in their beds. So I'm minding my own business, reading, and from the bottom of the stairs, I hear something. And it's footsteps on the stairs. And it sounded like a little kid almost, like, you know how little kids just like kind of barrel up and down the stairs, like do 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 do. Yeah. Stops at the top of the stairs. I'm like, what the is this? I hear it go back down. Do 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 do. This continues to happen. I hear it multiple times. Do 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 do. My grandma was very spooky and kooky, and she always told me if anything paranormal happened to ignore it, because if you pay attention, you'll like feed into the energy and it will get more aggressive and stronger or something. So this is in my head and I'm like, I'm ignoring this. Nothing's happening. Everything's fine. And again, stuff had happened at their last house and I was just like, not again. So I'm ignoring it because it's gonna stop, right? At this point, I have like a headphone in, volume very low, pretending I'm not listening to the running up and down the stairs. I hear it come back up. Do, 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 do. It stops. It stops for a few minutes. I'm like, okay, maybe it's done. Let's say 5 minutes passed after this thing had stopped at the top of the stairs. Again, the landing is small, so let's say hypothetically, wherever this thing stopped is like 3 feet from my closed door. After a few minutes, I'm sure everything is all good. I kind of relax and I'm still reading my book. And then suddenly, it was like a full-grown man, like a 6 foot tall man, took both of his fists and slammed it way harder than that. Slammed it against the door of the room I was sleeping in. The door shook. I jump up. If there's fight and flight, there's also freeze. And I fucking froze. I was so scared. But again, my grandma's wisdom, I'm like, I have to ignore it. Nothing happened. 2 minutes later, again, harder. And the vibe was genuinely like, don't ignore me. That was like the vibe I got from the second slam. A couple minutes go by, I haven't moved. But I'm like, what do I do? I decide to take action. I take my blanket, wrap it around my body for protection. Flip on my bedroom light. I swing open the door to meet my fate. The landing is empty. Everyone is sleeping, obviously. I flip on the hallway light, flip off my light. Flip on my brother's light, flip off the hallway light. Close his door, shake him half awake, and I'm like, scoot over, I'm sleeping in here. I'm 17, he's 12. We haven't shared a bed in several years, but that's how scared I was. It is summer in Nevada, and I literally have the covers over my face like this, and I'm like breathing in my own carbon dioxide, but I was like, I have to have the covers over my face. After like 15 minutes on his door, again, softer, but kind of like a, I know you're still in there. I was like, thank God I'm going home tomorrow. Anyway, this started happening to them after I left. This would happen on my brother's door, the slamming. From downstairs, they would also start hearing like muffled arguments at the landing, like voices fighting. Anyway, they moved out of that house as quickly as possible because it was super scary. I don't know if this was like an actual ghost. I don't know if this was like residual energy from like a bad DV type of thing going on in that house previously, but I did not like it. And yeah, that's it. Sorry, this was super long.
We all know that in Haiti, if you see something, no, you didn't. So what happens to the people who see something and talk about it? I am back with another spooky story. So in Haiti, if you see something strange at night, you're supposed to stay quiet. Do not point at it, don't scream, and don't tell anyone about it until the sun comes up. But also understand that not everybody subscribes to these rules. This story happened in somebody's neighborhood. Despite all the warnings that if you see something in Haiti, you don't say anything, there was this one boy, we're gonna call him Jean-Baptiste. He did not listen. One night, Jean-Baptiste woke up thirsty. He walks to the front of the house, and when he gets there, he froze. Because as he looks up, he sees that on the roof across the street, he says he sees someone on the roof, and right in front of Jean-Baptiste's eyes, this person starts to transform into a chicken. And this isn't exactly your regular chicken. It transforms and it starts to fly around like a bird, and it has flames coming out of his derriere. Now, Jean-Baptiste can't believe his eyes, and he feels this overwhelming urge to warn people. So instead of keeping still, he panicked. He ran through the neighborhood barefoot, banging on doors, waking people up, yelling at the top of his lungs, letting people know exactly what he just saw. A few people actually came out their house to check out the scenery. However, when they came out, there was nothing out there. The lougawou was long gone. By morning, Jean-Baptiste's voice was gone. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. His parents thought maybe it was just shock from what he saw, but his elders knew better. That night, the people who came outside to check out the scenery started hearing scratching at their windows, footsteps on top of their roofs. Now, those people in their houses are full on being haunted. Dogs were barking nonstop, and there was nothing ever there. It seemed like the thing that he saw had followed his words. And now this lougawou was circling every house that Jean-Baptiste had woken up. Within a week, Jean-Baptiste became unrecognizable. His cheeks were sunk in, his eyes were hollow, and it looked like something was quite literally sucking the life out of him. He's getting so bad that his family finally decided to take him to a Ouga. The Ouga didn't even let them finish explaining, because the second he saw Jean-Baptiste, the Ouga shook his head and said, "He spoke too fast. When you see something of the night, you keep it in silence, because once your tongue calls it, it doesn't leave you." The Ouga tried to help, but Jean-Baptiste never got better. He grew weaker and weaker every day until he couldn't even walk. He can't talk, he can't walk. Until this day, Jean-Baptiste will have these episodes that can only be explained by otherworldly things. The person who submitted this story wants you to know that if you see something in Haiti, No, you did not. Because if you speak about it right away, not only are you endangering yourself, but possibly endangering an entire neighborhood. As everybody in that neighborhood had to fend for themselves to find a way to keep their houses safe from lougawous. If you have a spooky story that you want me to tell, feel free to submit it to me either right here on TikTok or Instagram. And if you were wondering about my lip combo, I have been using the NYX Cosmetics. And shout out to NYX Cosmetics for having the perfect lip combo for us black women. And if you were wondering about the brow gel, it's also NYX Cosmetics. Thank me later. And make sure you hit that follow button for more spooky content.
I'm in Ohio visiting my mom right now, and tell me why. We've been noticing in the mornings that this has been open. This little key code that she has to open the garage. It's always like this, shut. My mom was a very methodical, organized, like detail-oriented person. It is always, always, always shut. I've been visiting here for the last few years since she's lived at this place, and it's always shut. It's been open like that in the morning. Now she has one of those things in her car where you just press the button and it opens the garage or closes it, so she doesn't even have to get out and use that code to get in. And I personally have not touched it or used it since I've been here. But the odd thing about it is my mom noticed that it only happened when I got here for this visit. She woke up one morning, she was pulling out of the driveway to go to work, and she noticed that that thing was up. I'm a little on edge right now because this guy driving this Amazon truck keeps circling the street, and I'm standing out here and he's been circling for like an hour, watching me while I'm out here filming this. So I'm about to shut the door and go inside, but what the heck is that about? Why would anyone have any reason to touch that code? Just for funsies, to see if you could crack the code, or like some other reasons? I come from a police family, a lot of officers, detectives. I watch a lot of crime documentaries. So I'm connecting dots, I'm creating a picture, I'm solving the puzzle. And this is primarily a retirement age type community. So like if someone is like trying to target anyone, I'm gonna be pissed. But it gets weirder. One of the times I was visiting here a few months ago, we were sitting on the couch watching a crime documentary, of course, and it was about 11 p.m. going on midnight, and we had gone out to eat earlier that night with my mom's boyfriend. Well, we're sitting there watching the show, his phone rings, and he doesn't recognize the name because it didn't say the number of like an unknown person. It had a name of a person, a name of a man. He answers, and they were like, you need to come back to this restaurant and like pay your bill, and also your credit card is here, which made no sense. He obviously had his card, and like it just didn't make sense. Like, why are you trying to get us to leave our house right now? So he ends that call, and then my mom gets a call like 10 seconds later, and it's the same person. She doesn't answer. 10 seconds later, I get a call, and it's the same person. Where it gets even weirder is I'm making dinner last night, and I get a text, and I realize it's the same number that was calling us months ago, and all he said was, I love your music. By the way, what are you making for dinner? All of you have asked for part 2, so here it is. Go to this video that this comment is from to watch the whole story so you can get some backstory. But yes, cameras. That's something that I'm going to be helping my mom with, and she does have an alarm installed, and she changed the code to her garage, and I always lock the door that leads from the garage to the house. I'm very particular about that. So I love all of the advice that you guys have left in the comments and all of the like little detectives we have. I love it. There is a question I want to pose to you guys, and let me know in the comments what you think, because we did go to the police department. This was last summer, I want to say. It was months ago, the night that I referenced in this previous story time, where the three of us, my mom, my boyfriend, my mom, my mom's boyfriend, and myself were all watching a crime documentary. It was like 11 p.m., midnight, basically, and my mom's boyfriend got a call, and it said the name of a person on his phone, not a number, and he didn't recognize the name. It was clearly a prank call, and they were basically trying to get him to get out of the house. And mind you, it was almost midnight. There was this stressed out urgency on the call, and it was someone using like a fake accent. Like, it was really creepy, and they were like, you need to come back now. You need to pay your bill, and da-da-da. And like, of course we had paid at the restaurant we were at earlier. It wasn't even the restaurant we were at. Like, everything was so wrong about it. It was twisted. And then he hangs up. And like I said in this previous video, within seconds, I get a call, and it's the same name on my phone I don't answer because we're so freaked out. So the next day, my mom's boyfriend did go to the police department at my urging because I was uneasy and I just wanted answers. I wanted to know, how is it possible that someone called him and then called me and like had both of our numbers and called us, and my mom was sitting in between us. And here's where I went wrong with the first story. My mom did not get a call from that number. I think she got a text or something, but she has a Android. And I have an iPhone, and my mom's boyfriend has an iPhone. And it was, as far as the seating arrangement, he was sitting in a chair. My mom was on the couch in between us, and I was on the other side of her. And it went, he got the call, then it skipped my mom, and immediately called me as soon as he hung up. So I was like, okay, is someone in the neighborhood and like got a hold of our numbers or the Wi-Fi and is like calling everyone in the houses in the area, like to try and get them to like run out of their house and like, I don't know, rob them? It's so bizarre, but basically the police had no information for us. We told them everything that happened the very next morning, and they're like, we don't know what to do. Like, we don't know what to tell you. I have my own theories, but I want to know what you guys think. So please tell me in the comments. And yeah, that person's a fan of my music.
Sorry for the wait. Here's a really scary one for you guys for waiting for me. So my aunt lived in Toronto and we lived in Mississauga, right? My aunt has been dealing with a lot since she gave birth to her son at the time. And so my mom said, hey, why don't you come to our house and stay with us for a few days just to get your mind off of things. So she came over, and the whole time she had to stay in my room. Her and her son stayed in my room the whole time for a few days, but she just stayed there. She didn't talk to anybody. She just was quiet. My mom was getting worried, so she called her brother, and she's like, why don't you come and like take her to your house since it's closer to her house and where her husband is, so you guys can take care of her and see how she is there. Now this is key information that you have to remember what I'm going to tell you right now. My sister goes to bed at like maybe 8 p.m. and my uncle ends up coming over at 9 p.m. Okay? My sister falls asleep at 8 p.m. and she doesn't know my uncle came over because she's asleep. So my uncle comes over at 9 p.m., okay? We're telling him my aunt's being a little weird and stuff, and she just maybe wants to stay over near her house or something, or a different environment. So she ends up going home with my uncle that night. That same night, me and my mom started talking about how weird things have been since she came over, just the vibe, the energy, and how weird she's been acting. And so my mom ends up calling like a witch doctor from back home in Pakistan. She calls him and she tells him a little information about her, but what he told us kind of scared us. He said that someone had done black magic to my aunt back home in Pakistan, to my aunt, and that's why things have gotten really bad for her around that time. Someone was jealous of my aunt and her husband's marriage, and she did something. So my mom and me are pretty spooked, and we're like, okay, let's just call it a night, let's just go to bed. Mind you, I slept in my sister's room on a mattress on the floor. I didn't sleep in my room that night. The next day, my sister wakes up in the morning and she brushes her teeth and everything, and then she checks my room and sees my aunt sitting on my bed looking at her like this. My sister's like, okay, and she closes the door. Didn't think much of it, and she went downstairs and she went on the computer. I wake up maybe an hour or two later and I run downstairs and I tell her what happened like last night. Like, oh my God, someone did black magic to our aunt, like this and that. And, you know, and she's like, well, where is she? I'm like, she went home last night. My sister's like, what are you talking about? I just saw her upstairs on your bed looking at me. And her face, like, blood dropped down from her face and everything. And she's like, Sonia, no, I saw her. Making a part 2 as we speak right now. Go check it out. Yeah. She's like, I saw her on your bed. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, she went home last night. And I kept telling her she went home last night. She's like, I saw her on your bed looking at me. And so we went upstairs. We ran upstairs. But first we woke up my mom and we kind of told her fast, like, what was happening and stuff. And we all three of us went to the door and we opened my door to my room. And we saw no one on my bed, but the blanket and everything looked as if there was someone that had been sitting there, which was really scary because my mom like did the like did the bed after she left, but it's just kind of scary. Knowing something was mimicking her to look like her or something. My sister was fully awake when she saw my aunt on my bed. But the next thing that happens is really scary because my dad was like, "You're not sleeping on the floor on the mattress again. You're gonna sleep in your bed tonight." So I had to sleep in my bed that night, and that was probably something that sticks with me a lot. I'll tell you in the next story. But this is the end of story 5, part 2. I just woke up from a nap. Sorry. So my dad was like, "You're sleeping in that bed tonight." The same day, all in the same day, you know, my sister seeing my aunt on my bed, and then later on, me having to sleep in that bed that same night. And this is the part that is the most scariest of this story. I'm in bed, and I'm so scared. My dad's like, "You're sleeping in your bed tonight," and he like was making me sleep there. He's like getting mad. He's like, "Why are you so scared?" He never believed any of this stuff, so he's like, "Sleep in your bed." I was like, "Okay." And I'm in bed, and I'm like terrified. I'm so scared, and I'm alone in my room, obviously, and all of a sudden I hear just like people talking. And then my dad was like, "If you're ever scared, just say a prayer." So I started saying this prayer from the Quran, because, you know, we're raised Muslim, and I started to say a prayer under my breath, and I was like, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And like I'm saying it, but I kept getting cut off by the sound coming from underneath my bed on my left side going, like this thing would keep going. I would start saying the prayer and it'd go, and I'm like, and I just stopped. I couldn't say the prayer. I couldn't finish it. And I am frozen and paralyzed in fear on my bed. And I'm like looking straight up, and I'm hearing the coming from under my bed. And then my bed started to like rumble. There's no washroom underneath my room, like on the first floor, so there was no like nothing to do with pipes. My bed started to like do like this, and the lights started flickering, and I'm still hearing like and stuff coming from under my bed, and I'm like trying to say a prayer in my head at least, and I'm still like these things are happening, and I yell out for my sister's name, and I'm like, "Come here, please." And like I jumped off the bed right when she came to my door, and I jumped off, and I never slept in that. I didn't sleep in that bed the whole time we lived there. We lived there for 2 years. I don't live there anymore, but that's I like slept in my sister's room the whole time. The only time I went in my room was when I had to change my clothes for school and look in my closet, which I was even scared to do. There are more stories, but this one still sticks with me. And yeah, I can't go to bed without covering my like left ear and stuff when I go to sleep because I'm so scared of hearing that thing again. It kind of like messed me up. So yeah, this is end of this story.
Giving you guys a tour of the abandoned hospital I live.
So this was something that I learned about when I was living in London for a while. I learned about it in the creepiest way possible. But in the UK, they have these things called property guardians, right? It's like a program for people who are low income. I guess you don't always have to be low income, but usually they were, where you would become the guardian of a giant abandoned property. It doesn't always have to be giant. It could be like an office building, a old school, an old hospital. In the case of the guy that I was seeing, he was staying in a former Afro-Caribbean funeral home with the whole works, right? Like there's funeral parlors, there's like the back part, which is like, I don't even know if it's considered a morgue, but like where they would embalm the bodies. They had sort of this large walk-in fridge thing, the tables. His bedroom was set up in the former office of the funeral director. He was like, I could pick any room, but that one was like the least creepy. I'm obviously by the way, this is the first date. He's telling me all this, right? I start asking questions. I'm like, what's going on? That sounds fucking creepy. He's like, I don't want to tell you because I think you're going to think I'm insane. Let's hang out a couple more times and then I will like let you know what's going on. If ever a way to get me to hang out with you another time, that's it. Finally, probably like 4th, 5th date, I'm always bugging him being like, tell me. And he's like, no. Fourth or fifth date, he gets super drunk and goes, I regularly wake up to the sound of music emanating throughout the entire place, except every time I go to try to figure out where it's coming from, I open my bedroom door and it stops. I'm going, huh? And he's like, even worse is that I will very often latch like the fridge door closed and wake up in the morning to it being open. He's like, sleep over one night, and I'm telling you, there's a good chance that one of those things will happen. I'm going, this guy is making up these stories, so I'm gonna sleep over, like, oh my God, like, this guy is down bad. You're also not allowed to have people at those properties, right? You're guarding this like giant property, so you're not supposed to have guests. That's why people don't have parties. We ended up getting really fucked up at a warehouse that he lived near. He's like, just come sleep at mine, and I'm like, I don't know about that. Against my better judgment, I go. He shows me around the place. It's honestly not even that creepy, right? The walls are painted yellow. There's like illustrations. It doesn't read to me as like super haunted. I pass out. I end up waking up at like 5:36. The sun is starting to come up. He is passed out next to me. I'm thinking in my head, I need to go back to sleep because if I start hearing this music, I am out of there. I'll die, simply. As soon as that thought comes into my mind, I swear to you, I start hearing this music. Ever so softly, it's like Caribbean music. I'm thinking in my head, wow, that Molly must be hitting hard because there's no way that this is happening. I nudge him awake. He goes, you hear it? And I was like, are you insane? That's gotta be like a car passing by. He's like, it's not a car. I don't know where it's coming from. Open the bedroom door, it'll stop. I go over, I open the bedroom door, music stops. He's like, turn the corner, see if the fridge door is open. I turn the corner. I saw him close the fridge door when he gave me the tour, right? I go around the corner, it's open. I go, I am leaving now, I will never come back here. Dated him for a couple more months, ended up breaking up a little while after. Probably 2 years later, I'm broke. I need to like get a place to live for super cheap. I end up calling this property guardianship because at that time I'd also heard about people staying in apartment buildings, like normal places. End up getting in contact with this girl. She's like, do you want to go see this office building today? I'm like, I don't know. I go there, it's super creepy. I'm not into it. We're talking outside. She's like, how did you hear about us? I tell her the story about the guy. She goes, you have no idea how often that happens to us. We have such a high turnover rate of property guardians because people will leave because they think that they're seeing things, they think that they're hearing stuff. She says that she doesn't know whether or not this stuff is actually happening or it's just because they're staying in these places by themselves and they're just sort of like getting really freaked out. But she's like, that happens at least every 2 or 3 out of 10 places. Also, the girl whose video I stitched is randomly a producer of Squid Game's The Challenge.
So I never tell the story because no one ever believes me, and also I kind of question my own sanity and I'll be like, did that really happen? But I know that happened. I saw a girl story time on here and it just validated my whole experience because she said this happens a lot in Illinois. So I'm from Chicago, the east side, and around the time that this happened, I was like 16. I remember just getting my license and I was so excited because I finally got a taste of freedom. I could do whatever I want. I can go wherever I want. And I was so excited, but my mom gave me 11:30 curfew. So I was like the type of person who would like wait until the very last minute to leave wherever I was at to try to get home on time at 11:30. So I remember I was just leaving my friend's house and I was almost home, y'all. Like I was like right around the corner from my house. So if you guys are familiar with Chicago, you might know where CVS High School is. So I was like on 87th. I was right by CVS. And then I remember turning left, right? And I turned left and I was driving straight and it was like I said, it was like around 11:30. So it was dark outside. And I looked and I saw a humongous animal. Like it was, I don't know if it was a panther or a tiger. It definitely wasn't a tiger. It was like a big, huge animal. And when I say like I almost shit my pants, like I was like I froze in the car. And I was at a stop sign when I looked over and I saw it, and he was just walking. And when I stopped, it looked at me and like we locked eyes, and then I just kept driving. I was like, oh my God, like I had to get home because I needed to make my curfew or I was gonna get beat up and I was gonna get in trouble. So I was like, let me just try to get home and forget about that, right? And I was like, I'm gonna like tell my mom when I get home, right? And so I got home. My mom was livid because I missed curfew and I didn't even end up telling her. I remember telling my friends the next day and nobody believed me. So I remember like looking up, did an animal escape from the zoo? I found nothing on that. And like I said, like I lived in the city, so it wasn't normal for us to see like huge ginormous panthers or whatever the case may be, whatever animal that was. It wasn't normal to see stuff like that at all. And I don't know, like to this day I always think like, what was that? Like it was so strange. Like it was such a strange looking animal, like something an animal I've never seen before, an animal I don't even know if it exists. So yeah, y'all, like very, very weird experience.
Paranormal Storytime. If it's late at night for you, I would suggest you not watch this video. So to set the scene, this is the middle of winter when I was about 7 to 8 years old, and at this particular time in my life, I had a bestie, a ride or die best friend. We're gonna call her Lily. Me and her were together almost every single weekend. I'm talking about ride or die best friend to the end. You get my drift. And on this particular weekend, we had a sleepover, as we usually did. Her family had an electric piano in the basement. This basement was creepy. I'm talking about Basement from the Cabin in the Woods creepy. If you know the movie, then you know my reference. Cobwebs everywhere. You wouldn't have wanted to go down there. I'm one to always fall asleep before everybody. During a sleepover, I always fall asleep early. I just cannot stay awake. I cannot hang. So I fall asleep before her. Mind you, she had a bunk bed. She would sleep on the top and I would sleep on the bottom. As I'm going to bed, I just don't feel good. In my soul, in my energy, this felt different. I didn't feel right. I felt very uncomfortable. The house was freezing cold and the house was dark. I mean, pitch black. You could not see your hand in front of your face. I'm so serious. Her dad was the type to where if it was bedtime and you were going to sleep, you had to turn off the TV. You had to turn off the lights. Everything had to go off. You weren't keeping a light on in this house. I wake up in the middle of the night. I don't know what time it is. It's dark. I'm having trouble going back to sleep. I'm tossing and turning. After about 45 minutes go by, I start to be able to doze back off. No sooner do I start to fall asleep, I'm awakened by the sound of music. I don't know where the sound's coming from. It wasn't a TV. Nothing's on. There's not a light on in this house. I remember vividly I was laying on my stomach, so my back was exposed. And this is when I feel a rush of air go down my back, and it's cold air. I'm frozen with fear. But after a few minutes go by, I get the courage to try to wake up my friend. I call her name, there's no response. I call her name again, still nothing. After I call her name a third time, the music does stop. I have to get up. I'm trying to find my way to the door because it's dark. Like I said, you can't see anything. I finally reach the doorknob, and as I start to twist it, the music starts playing again. There's no turning back. I have to pee. I gotta go now. I run to the bathroom, and this bathroom is closer to the basement. And if you remember earlier, I said they had an electric piano down there. It was the piano. The piano is playing. I finish using the bathroom, and I run back to the bedroom. I get under the covers so fast, but that's not even the crazy part of the story. The next morning, I tell my friend about this piano playing. She goes, "The old piano from the basement?" I said, "Yes." She's like, "There's no batteries in that piano." I actually, sadly, did not go back to her house after this. We actually stopped being friends. When I told her that I didn't want to go back over there, it kind of just put a bad taste in her mouth, I guess, but I know what I heard. The piano was playing.
If someone ever asked me if there was a story that I would want all of my followers to listen to from beginning to the end, it would be this one. These are the type of stories that truly scare me so much. Just wait till the ending of this. So this guy says that when he was very, very young, he had a best friend named Raul. He said that it was a privilege to be Raul's best friend because unlike his home life, Raul's home life was really amazing. Raul had two parents who loved him so much and gave him attention. He even remembers how Raul didn't have to share his bedroom and had it all decorated with things that he loved. He lived in this really big house and had all the toys that just kids would dream of. He even had the newest and most modern video game setup, so of course when Raul asked him to stay the night, he was happy to. And just like he expected, he had the time of his life in that sleepover, and it wasn't just like the toys and having fun with Raul, but even Raul's parents treated him like he was a part of the family. He remembers eating sweets, and they even ordered pizza, which was really rare in his own household. He remembers even little details like when they were gonna watch movies, they would let him choose the movie that the entire family was going to watch. He says that they would watch the movie and then they would go play video games, they would have snacks until they eventually would go to bed. However, not everything was perfect. There was just something about when nighttime came that was not good. He realized that something was not right the first night he spent the night in that house, and he was tossing and turning. He explains that what he started to hear was almost like if somebody was knocking on the bedroom window. He thought to himself that maybe it was a branch of a tree that was making that kind of sound, so he didn't even bother opening his eyes to look outside that window. However, a few moments later, he heard that tapping on the window again. He did pretend to be asleep while somebody was tapping on that window, but he admits that that really scared him, not knowing who was on the other side. He ended up falling asleep until it was morning time, and then he didn't tell anybody anything because he forgot, since he was dreading going back home in the morning. So a week passed and it was the weekend again, and Raul again asked him if he wanted to spend the night, and he was so excited that he said yes and completely forgot about the window incident. However, they had fun. They went to bed, he couldn't fall asleep, and somebody was tapping on that window again. However, this time, after knocking or tapping on that window and him pretending to be asleep, he heard something different after. What he heard was somebody attempting to open that window. And he says that they were being successful because he could hear that window opening. He literally stood up, looked at the window, and he saw when a hand pulled back and hid. He said that the hand was long with his fingers all weird, and that to him, it was like a demon hand or something. He woke up Raul, who also looked and saw that the window was open, and they ran to the parents' bedroom and woke them up. The parents were obviously very alarmed, went, and they didn't see anything. The window wasn't even open. The parents also explained to him that they had an alarm system. They walked him to the alarm system and even went as far as giving him the code because they wanted him to feel comfortable, and if anything was wrong or if he ever needed to come over and they weren't home, he could put in that alarm code and come inside. And of course, that did calm him down, and him and Raul went back to the bedroom and they went to bed. And of course, with time, he completely forgot about that incident and he continued to go over to Raul's house. However, he does admit that every time in the night, he would hear something. If it wasn't a tap on the window, it was something completely different. Unfortunately, he says that the sounds coming from the yard or from the window weren't even the worst of it. There was one night he really needed to go to the restroom. As he's going to the restroom, he could see the front yard of the house through this big window, and he swears that he sees a really tall, bald man just staring into the house. He said the man didn't have like any hair in his face, like it was no eyebrows, just his eyes, his lips, like he was very pale. So when he saw him the first time, it was on a Thursday. The following day, he sees him again, but this time he is a little bit closer to the house. By the time Saturday came, he was right next to the window of that house. He did say that he thought to himself, like, why am I seeing this ghost? I cannot bring it up. If I continue to bring this up to the family, they're gonna stop inviting me over and they're not gonna let me hang out with Raul anymore. However, there was one last occasion where he saw this bald man. He woke up because he was really thirsty and he was gonna go to the kitchen and get a glass of water. He remembers that his grandmother told him about this like myth where if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're really thirsty, it's because someone has been observing you. Okay, didn't need to hear that within this story. I'm a thirsty ass bitch at 3 in the morning. Anywho, he gets up, he starts walking towards the kitchen. At this point, he knew this house almost like if it was his own. So he was just gonna go and get a glass of water and go back to bed. However, when he walked out of Raul's room and about to head towards the kitchen, something that was in the living room walking into the kitchen was surprised to see him. And unfortunately, he recognized what that was. The figure that he had been seeing outside was now inside of the house. The bald man just stayed very still, and he said that he just walked backwards, went into Raul's room and closed that door. And obviously he didn't tell the family anything, but he knew that this was out of control and very much out of his hands. The things that he was seeing were just getting worse and worse. And unfortunately, he would refuse to spend the night at Raul's house after that. He said that in the beginning when Raul would invite him over and he would say no, that maybe he didn't give it that much importance, but eventually Raul would invite somebody else and he started having new friends, and him and Raul just weren't friends anymore. Time passes and he says that when they were 25 years old, he ended up bumping into Raul again. They were so happy to see each other that they ended up grabbing a coffee and just sat down and started talking. He tells Raul that all of his fond memories were at his house and that he was so grateful that they were friends even if it was for a short amount of time. And he also explained to Raul why he stopped coming over, because of that ghost that only he would see every night. That is when Raul told him something to calm him down, but it was the complete opposite. That definitely did not calm him down. Raul told him the following. doing. Yeah, there was something there at that house. That they discovered it a year after he stopped coming over to Raul's house. It was definitely not a ghost, but it was terrifying. Raul said that even his parents were like, oh my gosh, the kid was right this entire time and we had no idea. A family member of Raul's father knew that house very well. This family member only lived several streets away from them. This family member had severe mental issues and was supposed to be watched and in his own house at all times because he was dangerous. However, he had found a way to escape that house every night without being caught. And every night that he would escape, he would head over to Raul's house. At first only standing outside the house and then eventually figuring out the alarm system's code and getting inside of that house. They even figured out that the way he got that code was when they had given it to him that one night that he was scared. They actually found him one night because the family was gonna go on vacation, but the dad forgot something at home. When the dad walked into the house, he found him inside and this family member attacked the dad. The family member ended up running out of that house but eventually was caught by the police. He was taken but not to jail because again he had very severe mental health issues, and after all this they found out that every night that he would escape his house he had attacked a lot of people, ending their lives. Raul also told him that after that he was never able to sleep comfortably in his room knowing that the guy was so close. He had opened his window, he had done all of these things until this family member did end up passing away 4 years after that incident. Even after his passing, they were to find people that he had ended and they never knew. So yeah, this is how he found out that he was never seeing a ghost. He was seeing that family member with severe mental issues and he survived. This is why this scares me so much, because I feel like you should be more scared of the living than the dead. The way that this could happen to anyone is what scares me so much. But anyway, what do you guys think?
Stop. Hey girls, I just got Shake Shack. I had a very long day, and I think I'm ready to share the story of the time that I was haunted. I would like to preface this by saying that I didn't really believe in haunting until this happened to me. Okay, this is the haul. I was big back tonight and I couldn't decide what I wanted, so I got chicken nuggets and a Shack burger and fries. So, I was haunted in 2019 when I was living in Oregon. At the time, I was living in like a commune-esque living situation. I was doing AmeriCorps, so I had 4 other roommates. I had my own bedroom in the back of the house. It was the largest room in the house. It was quite spacious, but I was alone in this room. I did this program from August to August, so it was 1 full year. I got from August to June, no problems. So June rolls around and I feel fine. I'm like about to finish this program. I'm feeling kind of excited for it to be over. To be honest, I was like ready to go back to New York. And I start repeatedly waking up at 3 a.m. And it wasn't like a wake up where I'm tossing and turning and rolling in bed and like slowly waking up. No, like I was laying in bed, shooting up out of bed, waking up. Like eyes open. It was very weird. And so at first I was like, oh, I must be stressed. Like I'm moving back to New York. I don't have a job yet. Like there was a lot of things up in the air. It keeps happening for like 2 weeks. I'm like exhausted because like I'm waking up and I can't go back to sleep. And then things are getting like progressively stranger. Like, this is so good. I started to wake up and feel like someone in the corner of my room, like there was someone there watching me. Like, you know the feeling when you know someone's eyes are on you? Like that's what it felt like. Obviously I couldn't see anything in the corner, but I felt like a presence. Then some other strange things started to happen. Like it almost sometimes felt like there was something on top of my covers, like at the end of my bed, or like my covers weren't fully on my legs. Like, so I really started to freak myself out. But I was really just thinking at this time that it was stress. And I was like, wow, I'm really freaking myself out. So I go to work. I'm working at this nonprofit at the time. It was Portland, Oregon. So people are just like really different and quirky and witchy and all that. So we're sharing our highs and lows of the week at our staff meeting. And I share that my low is that I keep waking up at 3 a.m. and I can't fall back asleep. And it's really starting to exhaust me. And my one coworker who is older and like very wise and witchy and very into that stuff, she pulls me aside after the meeting and she's like, I just want to let you know, like, that's the bewitching hour. Like 3 a.m. is when witchy things happen. Okay, well, screw me. So this coworker, this lovely woman, comes to our house after work, comes into my bedroom, and like closes her eyes and tries to feel the room. She's like trying to feel for spirits in the room. She's like, I want you to sage your room. And I literally have a video of me saging my room. I will include it in this. She's like, I want you to sage your room. And then tonight, if you wake up at 3 a.m., I want you to wake up and sit up and calmly tell this ghost, this presence in your room, that you don't want it there. That like it's your space and you don't want this presence there. At this point, all my roommates know this is going on because I'm like not sleeping. I'm freaking out. Like this is a known thing in the house. So I go to bed that night and once again, I shoot up at 3 a.m. Now I'm freaking out because I feel this presence in my room. I'm shooting up at 3 a.m. Now I know it's like a spirit and I'm starting to cry because I'm freaking out. And I'm like talking to this ghost, this presence in my room. And I'm like, I need you to leave. Like, this is my space. Like, please leave. In my head, I'm like, I sound very crazy doing this, but I was just rolling with it. I'm crying. I'm telling this ghost to leave. All of a sudden, in the middle of me telling this ghost to leave, my fire alarm in my bedroom starts blaring. Okay? This fire alarm, I have lived in this house for 10 months at this point. The fire alarm had not gone off once. I didn't even know there was a fire alarm in my room. It starts blaring once I start telling this ghost to leave my room. AKA, like, it was by the door. Like, I think the ghost was leaving the room and, like, past the fire alarm, and that's what set it off. So I start screaming bloody murder. I'm, like, sobbing. My roommate comes in. She's freaking out. Then I ended up sleeping on her floor that night. Like, obviously didn't sleep. The whole next day, I felt this, like, presence, like, hanging on my back. I'm not even kidding you. I know it sounds crazy. It literally felt like something was like holding onto my back the whole day. And I remember I had to take kids on like a field trip to an amusement park or something. And the whole day I just felt this like presence with me and it was really freaking me out. So I didn't sleep in my room for like the rest of the year. I slept on my roommate's floor. But I would have to go back into my room to like get clothes and shower and do things. Or like if I was talking on the phone and I wanted to have a private conversation during the day, like only when it was light out, I would sit in the room and do things. Things just started to get progressively weirder. Like I would sit on my bed and I'd be talking on the phone to my mom and my plant on the other side of the room, one of the leaves would like kind of like shake like that, like out of nowhere. Like there would be no windows open. Like the plant would just be moving. That was weird. Then I would always hear like a knocking noise from my closet. Like it was giving poltergeist. It was really weird. It was not a friendly ghost. Like this ghost was threatening. It felt threatening. We tried to call a priest to come over. They wouldn't come over. And then I moved out a month later because the program was over. But that's my story about getting haunted. It really messed me up. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm probably gonna get haunted tonight because I'm like speaking it into existence. And I do like telling that story because I feel like it's an interesting lore. I will say the worst part about the whole thing was that like no one believed me except my roommates. So I was like calling all my friends in New York, telling them, and they were like, you're crazy, whatever. But my roommates like knew this was happening. Like we still talk about it. Like I'm still friends with them and we talk about how crazy it was. But like I would call my dad crying and be like, I'm like being haunted. And he would be like, don't stop saying that. Like you're not being haunted. Like everyone made me feel like I was crazy. So then I started to feel crazy. That's it. It was so crazy. And I'm like dying to hear other people's ghost stories because now that it's happened to me, and that's not even that crazy. Like I can only imagine the crazy stories people have.